Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. And today we have a really good tip for you regarding what I consider to be the most underused group of spinnerbaits. You know, I think most of us would agree that the spinnerbait is one of the best all-time fish catching tools. And recently, since the innovation of the chatterbait, I feel like a lot of us have moved away from the spinnerbait. I will say, I think in the last year or two, there's been more of a movement back to spinnerbaits, but it's in the traditional manner. And I want to tell you guys, there is a whole subset of spinnerbaits that people are not using anymore that are absolutely killer. And before I get into that, I do want to remind you guys that if you're looking for a little bit of help on your local lakes, check out the lake breakdowns that I do with fishthemoment.com. Myself, Randy Blockett, Johnny Schultz. We're putting out a lot of really good content, so check those out. The link's in the description. Also, guys, if you're looking to purchase some baits, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link in the video. It's a great way to support the channel and very much appreciated. All right, guys, so the spinnerbaits that I want to talk about are not your traditional spinnerbaits. They look like a traditional spinnerbait, but they're not meant to be fished in the same manner where you're fishing it over the top of grass or through grass or cast into the bank. These are bottom-dwelling spinnerbaits. These spinnerbaits are meant to go 20 feet down and fish the areas where maybe you can't even get a crankbait down to all the time. And I've got a couple that I really want to talk about. The first one is called a ledge buster. Guys, I've got a whole pile of ledge busters here. They've been a spinnerbait that I've had for years now that I've been putting to work. They still produce them. They've been around for a long time. And for a while, they were a really big player on the ledge lakes. And then for whatever reason, we went away from them. But like a spinnerbait like the ledge buster, and this is one I've actually painted the blade blue on it, which has been worn away after years of usage. The thing here is this bait is so heavy. You know, you can get them, I think, all the way up to like 2 ounces. They come standard, I think, all the way up to like, I think from 3/4 to 2 or even more than that. But these baits are meant to be used at a super deep level, all the way down to 35 feet. You know, they come with a single willow leaf blade on it. The heads are really heavy, and then they have a nice big stout hook. But because of the fact that it's only a single bladed spinnerbait and it's got such a heavy head on it, you can cast this out and keep the spinnerbait at that level. That's one of the biggest keys here. You can take a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, even a 1 ounce spinnerbait, and cast it out, but it's really hard to retrieve it at such a slow pace that the bait stays on the bottom. These ledge busters, these 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce spinnerbaits are meant to be retrieved and stay on the bottom, so you can fish those drops in those places that you can't get a lot of other classic moving baits to. You know, that's one of the things. You get to a point where you're fishing at such a depth where a lot of times the only baits you can throw are bottom baits, like a jig or a drop shot. It's really hard to get a moving bait down to that level. Even a crankbait, you know, yes, you can get a crankbait down to 20+ feet, but it takes a lot of effort to get it down there. And generally on those casts, your bait is only in the strike zone for a small portion of the cast because the crankbait kind of does one of these. It takes a while for it to get down to that depth, and then by the time it does, it's almost under the boat and you're bringing it back up. A spinnerbait is one of those baits. You can cast it out, let it fall to the bottom in 30 feet of water, and slowly reel it back along that bottom to the point where it's still on the bottom right under the boat. I absolutely love fishing a ledge buster in several different situations. One, if you're on a TVA lake and you don't have a big spinnerbait rigged up for some of the ledges that you're fishing, you're really missing out because they generate huge bites. This is one of the best ways to get the biggest bites out of the school of fish. So definitely on the ledge lakes. If you live up here in the North Country, one of my favorite ways to fish this is over the deep grass flats as well as deep grass weed lines. You know, there's a lake here in Wisconsin called Lake Geneva, and this bait has caught me hundreds of bass, both largemouth and smallmouth out there fishing weed lines in like 18 to 20+ feet of water because it's so hard to fish a lot of other baits. I could fish a crankbait in that situation, but I'm going to be in the weeds a lot of times. I can throw a jig or a drop shot, but then I'm using that slow moving bait. this is a bait that you can get through the, you know, the grass that lives that deep. That's one of the keys here is you're able to use what would normally be considered a moving bait or a search bait in the same places that, you know, you normally would have to fish a bottom bait. So this is a great bait for doing that. Now it is a little bit on the bigger side. So if you're looking for a little bit smaller profile, this is the second bottom dwelling spinnerbait that I like to use, and it's appropriately named the Bottom Dweller. This is the Strike King Bottom Dweller, and it comes with a much more compact classic spinnerbait profile, but it's got an extremely heavy head. I think this is an 1 3/8 ounce, which I believe is the heaviest size that they make. Here's another one for you. But because it's such a compact profile, you can keep it down at those deep depths. It is a double-bladed spinnerbait, but a couple of things to note on the blades. They're much smaller than you'd get normally on a spinnerbait this size. They're also very narrow, and they're not as cupped as much, so they don't grab as much water. You still get the flash, you still get some vibration, but you don't create as much drag because they're not quite as cupped as some of the other blades of this style. That lets you keep your bait down at a much deeper depth. It also comes with these good tantalizing skirt material on here, which in my opinion takes away the need to put a trailer on it, because if you're fishing it that deep and you put a trailer on it, whether it's a swim bait or some sort of curly tail, something along those lines, that additional bulk creates more drag in the water, which makes it harder to keep your bait down at that depth. That's why I would rather just go with this longer skirt material. And to be honest with you, if I put a boot tail on here anyways and left the skirt material, that skirt material is going to get tangled up with the boot and probably prevent the boot tail from kicking as good as it should. So there's no reason to do that, in my opinion, if you want to be fishing this bait at such a deep depth. But this is all about a smaller profile, so if I'm looking to generate a few more bites, this is a good way to go. Or if I'm fishing someplace like up here in the North Country, where maybe I'm targeting just smallmouth, then I usually generally go with the Bottom Dweller. If I'm fishing a place that's got more shad in it, or I'm looking for the bigger bite or more of a largemouth fishery, that's when I'm going with the Ledge Buster spinnerbait. Both of these are great options, but the key here, the takeaway from this video, guys, is you want to use a spinnerbait in places that you wouldn't normally think about fishing it. Generally speaking, most anglers will not fish a spinnerbait much deeper than 5 feet, let alone 20+ feet of water. And if you can get this bait down there, you will generate the same number of strikes that you get on a spinnerbait as you would if you were beating the bank with it. And therefore, you're going to get a lot of additional bites. Plus, those fish very rarely see a spinnerbait. So guys, if you have a place where you like to fish some deep water, whether it's on a hump, a river ledge, you know, a TVA ledge, anything like that, check out some of these spinnerbaits, get them down to that deep depth, and I'm telling you, you'll get a few extra bites, and you have a really good chance at catching the biggest fish of the school that's down there. So check them out, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this tip helpful. Stay tuned. We'll have another one coming out tomorrow.